So gold price is bouncing around, and I suppose that's a really big deal if you're actively buying or selling, spending, or other ways using that gold, but who does that? The price of gold is bouncing around a little bit this week. Big surprise, right? We've already talked about why. Downward forces are going to hit anytime we have data that feeds that idea that the Fed is going to keep rates higher for longer. We saw that rally coming off trader hopes in the first place, hopes that we would see rates cut by late March. Now that hope is being carved away. CME FedWatch tool shows us that 52% of traders are still expecting a March cut, but that's compared to 96% from really just a few weeks ago. So we're seeing gold price slide a little bit. And like I said, big surprise, but that was sarcasm. So if we jump to a chart, we can see spot prices trying to slide down, but we still have these upward forces coming in the form of Middle East conflict. And there's not a whole lot to say about that. I see those alarmist videos, but we can all see the actual effects aren't really that alarming. The price is bouncing around a few points below all-time highs. Now, if everything that was happening in the Middle East was going to send the price of gold and silver to the moon, we would have seen that happening, but we're not. Now, I'm probably not doing a good job hiding the fact the price movement at the moment is just not very exciting to me. I think this is going to be a very interesting year for gold, but probably not so interesting that we need to talk about this every single time we come on here. Now, I think this is going to be an interesting year for gold in the way that I thought 2022 was going to be a boring year. So what's different? Well, the Fed policy pivot is a big deal. And we have some kind of inflection point in the overall economy coming as well. Either inflation is going to come back down, it's going to level off, or it's not. But either way, that has very big implications for gold. So if I can take a detour from that typical conversation about gold price, where my mind is at lately is consolidation. So lining up my holdings with the use cases. Now, for 11 years, I was only buying American Eagles and a few other things. American Eagles, though, is probably about 90% of what I had. The next big thing was Maple Leafs. I had a few random things like 20 Franks Roosters, I had a Buffalo or two, and I had some Perth Mint Lunars, but all of this variety that I have, that's all new. So all of these coins floating around the edges here, they are semi-numismatic distractions. I just bought them because I liked them. And that doesn't mean that they're not great coins. It just means that I didn't really think through any kind of reason for buying them in the first place. I bought them because they looked nice. I bought them because they added a little bit of variety to these videos. Now, the Lunars are an easy choice for me because on the collectible side, they appreciate in value. But if and when the price of gold shoots up later this year, there's a really good chance that I'm going to be selling or trading a lot of the other coins that I have. Now, not everything. Some have sentimental value. Some I just find fun. But I have a very specific purpose behind tubes of Eagles, tubes of Buffaloes, and tubes of Maples. And that purpose might sound bigger than it is because I'm saying tubes, but there's a lot to gain from having simple bundling like that. 2 tubes of Eagles and a tube of Maples in a vault. It's 50 ounces. There's no question whatsoever about how I would move that or what it's worth. I just don't even have to think about it. It's simple. So that simple organization for the bigger picture of how I intend to use my gold, or even not use it because some of it's only meant to be handed down, well, that's where I'm going with the bulk of what I have. I want things to be simple. These were sent to me. I made a short video about gold backs, and I think we're all on the same page about them. This is not something that you'd stack for gold content. I think you'd be paying somewhere around 100% premium for these 50 gold backs. They have 1/20th of an ounce of gold in them, which is definitely significant, but they cost about $190 at SD Bullion. I've seen them selling as high as 200% premium at other sites. So you won't get that 100% or 200% premium back if you're thinking about these just as stacking gold content. And I should probably qualify that. That's my guess anyway. I'm not trying to tear anybody down. The idea of using gold is interesting to me. Using it through goldbacks, though, I don't know. I don't think that they've solved that idea yet, but they have a list of businesses willing to take them, and I did speak to a few of them just to confirm that they would, so I now have an actual use case for spending them. I'm going to come back to that when and if it happens. I'm not recommending these. I'm not reviewing these. I'm just saying that the idea lines up with something else that I'm thinking about. Now, if you've never seen these before, really quickly, these gold backs are printed on actual gold. The idea is that you would spend them like currency. I'll link to a short video explaining them a little bit more. Now, the idea of using gold at all is one that gets challenged a little bit in the comments section. Some people think gold is meant to be hoarded. Just bury it in the rose garden. And I don't have any issue with that, but that's not how I see it. I see it as a savings model that's a little bit more sophisticated than a typical bank savings account. Now, I want some gold in deep storage. I want some on hand for emergency needs. And then maybe I have a slush fund that I'm still figuring out. Now, that's probably where most of my collectible stuff fits in, but it's not just a group of coins that I'm waiting to flip. There's a little bit more to it than that. So I mentioned the comments from the people saying gold is meant to be accumulated, never sold, so bury it in the rose garden. Well, then there are comments from people challenging this idea that you'd ever be able to use gold at all in any kind of bad situation, so wider financial emergency, EMP, whatever. But that's one of those straw man arguments against gold because my purposes just don't line up with that use case. For me, anything that I have vaulted would be for long-term savings. And if I needed to sell 50 ounces of gold, well, that would help get me back on my feet. And in the meantime, well, gold has done a really good job staying ahead of inflation, regardless of what people say. So far, so good. Now, no guarantees, but life doesn't give them. So if things were to get to a point where inflation ran wild and the stock market crashed, well, gold might do even more than stay ahead of inflation, and that's where that insurance aspect comes in. Now, if this feels like I've just been spitting out something that's in my head, well, it's the context for my focus on price. I plan to accumulate a little bit more prior to the Fed pivot. That's what's going on this year. So I plan to exchange some of my random gold on the other side of the price swing when the prices go up. Now, what I may end up doing here is buying the Eagles ahead of the expected move. And when I say expected, I mean I expect it. And then I would simply sell the coins that don't fit in after the swing. That makes sense. So in other words, this is the first time that I feel like I might be hedging in the typical commodity sense. So like risk mitigation on the guess that the price at the end of the year is going to be higher than it is now. So hold on, that's not a professional prediction. You listen to me, you'll lose all your money, but it's something that I've started doing personally. Now I'm saying all of this with gold well above $2,000 an ounce, and I'm not dumping my life savings into gold. I'm not rolling my 401k or my IRA into it, dumping market positions to get everything into gold. I'm just simplifying some things and again, making that guess that at $2,000 gold is probably going up. And just not immediately. So all of this is me being intentional with those gold purchases this year. I did buy a Maple Leaf Wednesday on the price dip. What was that, 2 days ago? And it is not being shipped to me, which is really kind of a strange thing. It's capping off a tube in an offsite facility, so I won't even see it. But I've heard they're lovely. So it's kind of a strange thing, but that's a big part of what I'm saying here. You can use gold a lot of different ways. So let's call it good there. I'm going to be continuing on this idea of using gold, and that doesn't mean that I'm going to be spending it all. If anything, I'm going to be spending, trading, selling a pretty small percentage this year, but I do intend to roll some gold sales into at least one other asset class. I'll tell you more about that later. So let us know what you're up to. Do you use your gold or no way? Let us know. And then while you're in the comments, be sure to hit that like button if you found any of this interesting. Be sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.